Happy Halloween, everybody. Happy Friday. Had a great day today. Hope you did too. We are going to start things off like we always do with the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Today's reading, Avoiding Controversy, 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, page 176. As an AA member and sponsor, I know I can cause real damage if I yield to temptation and give opinions and advice on another's medical, marital, or religious problems. I am not a doctor, counselor, or lawyer. I cannot tell anyone how he or she should live. However, I can share how I came through similar situations without drinking and how AA's steps and traditions help me in dealing with my life. And for this one, I just put brackets around that whole that whole reading, because that reading just encapsulates my motto when it comes to addiction. You can speak to people, don't speak at them. Talk about what worked for you. And that's pretty much it. Talk about what worked for you. Don't that doesn't mean it's the Bible for getting sober. It means talk about what worked for you. Talk about what didn't work for you, and hopefully somebody learned something from it. So we got a couple emails in this past week. One message was from a man named Joseph in Dallas, Texas, and he is currently using. He's going to rehab next week, and we reached out to him about where he was going. I'm waiting to hear back from him. But if anybody knows of any great rehabs in Dallas, Texas, I'm sure there's a lot of information available. He sent me some, insurance information that he had, and we were going to try to see what we could find on the old interwebs for him as well. But Joseph, it's Halloween. I hope you're okay. I haven't talked to you in about 2 days. So if you hear this, I'm praying for you, dude. And if you need anything, please reach out. If you just need somebody to talk to, people are there, man. Hit a meeting. I mean, there's a bunch of good people in those meetings. And I'm praying for you. Just take it slow. Okay, so we left off at my daughter being born the same day that I agreed to become a snitch for the Cleveland Police Department. Amber was passed out after our daughter was born. It was a regular birth. She had planned for it to be a C-section because she had one with my son. But there was no time for all that. She went into labor, and she was an absolute champ. And you remember some things your entire life, no matter what. Some things you don't want to remember, some things you remember terribly, but in all the chaos that was my life back then, and especially after this day, the moment, that birth, it's amazing how certain situations are special no matter what. And just, there was so much bad in both of our lives, and so much more bad was right around the corner. But when she squeezed my hand and I talked her through it, and she pushed her out, I mean, there's no feeling like it in the whole world. Amber immediately started talking about how we were going to hide the fact that she was on drugs. She was concerned about child services, and she wasn't thinking correctly or clearly. Neither was I. We were both concerned more about CPS. As fucking terrible as that is to say and admit, I mean, everything that was going on next door with our little girl and where our heads should have been, um, we were definitely aware. We were definitely alert, and we definitely had guilt. We definitely wanted to just crawl into a ball and cry, but we were in addict survival mode. Um, and that's just the terrible, terrible truth of it. We were both concerned about CPS. The plan, the plan was that they were going to find out about her drug problem, but not mine. If they hadn't already found out about her, then they would eventually, right? Again, uh, Amber would take the fall, and I would hide in plain sight. I would have to really be sober though. Eventually, they would check, and that is just a terrible truth. Um, it was an awful fucking plan. It was just an awful plan because all the pressure and all the nonsense that was on me at that time. I mean, everybody hated Amber. You know, here she was admitting to using drugs while she was pregnant, and here I am pretending to be this, unsuspecting husband that didn't know that his the mother of his child was using drugs. I mean, it was a fucking shame. It was despicable, is what it was. Honestly, but that was the plan we came up with. It was an awful fucking plan. But our addicted minds, it was the best one we had. Um, between agreeing to be a snitch and my daughter being born on drugs, all while I was in withdrawal, I decided to leave the hospital and get high. Um, Imagine this, if you can, a 160-pound version of me, and I know that is, for those of you that know me, that alone is probably stretching your imagination. Sober today, for those of you that don't know me, I'm about 265, 270. In addiction, in 2015, I was about 160. I'm driving down the freeway on 480, actually on the stretch of 480 that is named after it was Corporal Brad Anthony Davis Highway. If you remember my friend Brad that was killed by a roadside bomb in Iraq in episode I think 2, that highway is named after him. I'm driving on the freeway on 480 heading to Newburgh off 77 North in Cleveland. The song Want to Want Me by Jason Derulo comes on the radio in my car. I start singing along while I'm bawling my eyes out. It's a really strange song for me because it's so obviously, the song is about a man and a woman being sexual with one another. All the lyrics would suggest that. There's no denying that in any way, shape, or form. But all I was really taking was the chorus, and I was when you have to remember, okay, I'm already, in just a fucking terrible state. I'm crying. I'm suicidal. I never in my life did I think about just driving my car off a bridge or which of my friends had a gun, and where I could go to just be alone for a minute and get that gun and get somewhere where I could pull the trigger on myself. Um, And the chorus to that song really got to me, really spoke to me. You know, nothing I wouldn't do just to get up next to you. And I know how stupid, how stupid that sounds. You know, but at the time, um, me, everything that just happened to me, it was like in that moment, everything that was going on around me, I was seeing, singing, I was screaming that chorus and crying. It was almost like a promise, like, daughter, I'm gonna figure this shit out, whatever I have to do. I promise. And I mean, this it it was a promise. Unfortunately, though, it was a promise that I would break many times before I would hit my rock bottom. You're listening to Beyond Dope. New episodes available every Friday. To reach out to us, use Facebook, Instagram, or email beyonddopepodcast@gmail.com. Once CPS was involved in interviewing all of our family, um, I mean, the nurses already treated Amber like shit, but they were so nice to me, like I was the victim, which made everything that much worse. Um, because they were so tender, they were so caring for this situation that I was going through, and that was the hardest part, was keeping the story straight and dealing with all of the guilt I felt while consoling that's not, I don't know if that's I don't know if that was the hardest part. I mean, everything about this entire situation was so fucking hard. And you have nothing but guilt to do this whole thing. I mean, you're Amber doesn't Amber's torn between wanting to see her daughter, but have to deal with all the looks she gets when she walks into the NICU. Meanwhile, when I walk in, I get these sympathetic looks like I'm some triumphant fucking hero for dealing with this fucked up situation and trying to get my wife help. So it was terrible. It was a situation of our own making that I never in my life would have thought that I would have ended up being a part of. Um, Incredibly, I mean, I just never, you never think your life will. There's situations that you never think you'll be in your life, and this was 100% one of them for me. And immediately, I found out that getting sober in this situation was going to be fucking difficult. Really, really difficult. A day after giving birth, I fell asleep in a bathtub, actually, for about an hour. It was like the only good sleep I got in about 2 days. And I woke up to find Amber there with about $180 worth of merchandise from Marshall's department store. She looked at me and she said, "Go take it back, get the money, and get something. I can't do this." And she threw this bag of merchandise at me. She had left the hospital, which was about a 3-minute drive from Marshall's. She went alone and stole all this while I was asleep. Answering everyone's questions and lying to them was just awful. I wanted it all to end. I wanted to tell everybody the truth. Honestly, I wanted to just leave a letter for everybody and just somehow end it all. I really did. I didn't want to be me anymore. And I think at the time, every time I used, I yeah, I got to get away from the situation for a minute, but I was so aware that what I just did jeopardized the situation that much more, because I was 100% aware that if I just stayed sober during this time, we would have been fine, and gotten out of the whole situation. I couldn't, and eventually I was tested, and I failed. Still, I used shampoo for my hair and fake pee. All the despicable tricks to try to get out of a drug test, because if I pass this test, God, I will never do drugs again, right? How many times have we said that? All my drug addicts out there, you guys know what I'm talking about. We make all these promises and deals with God when we need Him the most, but then we forget to talk to Him when things are going good. I don't know why that is, but that's human nature in my experience. Uh, but I was using intravenously, twice a day. I mean, there was no way I was going to pass those tests, even with, I used any kind of shampoo that I get my hands on. Like I said, I used fake pee. That they took hair. I mean, it was over. I failed the test, and they held a meeting downtown at Child Protective Services headquarters. They invited everyone, all of our family, to this meeting. Her mom and dad, my brother and sister, and their significant others, her brother and sister, and their significant others. And just like a meeting of all the people you don't want to be there when you're talking about your drug use. And there's words on this whiteboard in front of you as soon as you walk in just bold magic marker. The words are oxymorphone, heroin, Dilaudid, Percocet, marijuana, and cocaine. I tested positive for all of them. Amber's sister and husband, Stacy and Ken, agreed to take the kids. My sister Liz and her husband also wanted them. My sister at the time lived right down the road from me. Well, actually, from my mom and dad. That's where we were living. So that was ideal for us. We wanted them close, and Stacy and Ken lived in Westlake at the time. So and we had a car, but it was on its last leg. The idea was to get sober and stop stealing. So I wanted them close because I figured I was going to be walking to go and see my kids, every day, hopefully. Um, During that meeting, there was a lot of personalities, and myself included. I'll never forget her dad kind of laying into me, like, you let her take the blame. What kind of man are you? And I agreed with him. Yeah, I mean, still to this day, I agree with him. And I have so much guilt over that. And Amber has she never forgave herself for shooting up while she was pregnant, and I think she was on the verge too, but she never did. And but the situation in that room, there was a lot of personalities there, and a lot of people wanted their way. And my sister, and I wanted them to be with my sister and her husband. So did Amber at the time, because we both thought that we would see them more. So that's what happened. And Amber went to not right away, but a few months later. Amber went to Stella Maris for detox, and I went to St. Vincent for detox. Both places are downtown Cleveland, and it's actually kind of ironic that this is a Halloween episode because I got out of St. Vincent one day before Halloween that year, and I was looking forward to going to my sister's house and going, being sober for the first time and trick or treating with my kids. And I remember being in the basement of my parents' house after I got home from detox. And for those of you who haven't gone to detox, when you're sober again for the first time, all these feelings that you feel, I mean, it's amazing how it's just, you really start to feel good again, and it's so powerful. I was really into music, which, I think we all are, and just going down there and just turning, putting a good playlist on and turning it up all the way and singing along just gets your emotions, your endorphins flowing like nothing you've ever felt, or at least haven't felt in a long time if you've been using drugs. And that's what I did. And Amber's dad showed up, um, and Amber was getting out of detox the next day, so he asked me if I wanted to go get her. I thought he meant, "Do you want to come with me to go get her?" But he said, "No, just run me home real quick. You could take the Jeep downtown and go get her." And I mean, when I look back on why he did that, I really think that he just didn't know how to deal with her and the whole situation. I mean, her mom and dad were great people, but they didn't know how to deal with her, and they didn't want her in their house, I don't think, because she had a past of, stealing things that weren't hers. And they didn't know where she was yet. So he was basically giving me his Jeep to go deal with her. So I took his Jeep, went downtown, got her, and came back. And I was pretty adamant. I really was. I mean, and you could tell that she was ready to use, pretty quick, right out of the gate. But like I said, she she struggled to forgive herself. So as soon as she got freedom again, she knew what she wanted to do. That wasn't, a way to get her life back. That was just a way to get her tolerance down for a little bit, at least at the time. Um, and I wasn't having it. I didn't want anything to do with drugs anymore. But I wasn't ready to let go yet. I was trying to save my kids and my wife, and that's something that you can't do in sobriety. You have to really just focus on yourself and let the chips fall where they will. I was still trying to play God. I was still trying to save everybody, and you just can't do that. And she gave me an ultimatum. She said, either we're getting something, because she had money. She had, I don't know, it was like $60. She said, either we're getting something or I am leaving and going to get something with the friends that I just made at Stella Maris. So again, we go back to terrible, awful plans, and this time it was, let's let's go get her something and not use it with her. So for 3 days, we got drugs, and she used them while I didn't. I don't know. In my fucking newly sober head, I figured if she could see me do this and not be enticed at all, maybe that would give her some kind of strength. And I know it makes like zero sense as I say it out loud, but I promise you that won't be the worst choice or the worst decision you hear in this podcast. Oh, and of course it didn't work out. And, you know, day 4, we ended up getting high together. And we were off ripping and running again for another, 6 months, 8 months, whatever it was. When we we justified it because when we both got out of rehab, um, we had found out that my sister and her husband no longer had the kids. They had basically agreed with Child Protective Services to give them to her sister, and her husband while we were in detox. So when we got out, I had the job of breaking that news to Amber, which was hard because we weren't on the best terms with her sister's husband. He hated us, and she didn't have the best relationship with her sister, at least at this time. And she would never keep us from our kids, but it was just a very tough time. We wanted them right around the corner, and they weren't anymore. And, there's smaller reasons to use. Like there's a lot less reasons to use when you're a week sober. I know people who oh, I have nerve pain, I have to use. Yeah, I mean, like whatever it is, you just hit that fuck it switch and you're off and running, and that's what we did. It didn't matter. The things that were happening around us it was just excuses for us to use. My sister and her husband did everything that they could, and still to this day do everything that they can for me. But at the time in our addicted minds, yeah, everybody was assholes, but that's not at all how it was. I mean, we were going to end up using no matter what was going on around us back then. That's all the time that I have for you. Same time next week, guys. I love you. Thanks for all the support. Keep putting one foot in front of the other, one day at a time. Thanks.